Hey, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're going to get into one of the biggest challenges in life, something we all face. It's this question that really gets to the heart of what it means to be human. In a world that is, let's be honest, guaranteed to be tough, how do we not just get through it, but actually find some meaning in it all? And this, right here, this is the question. It's the whole ball game. Notice it's not how do I avoid pain? Because, well, you can't. The real question is, how do I face all that difficulty head on and not let it break me, not let it make me a worse person? That single question is going to frame everything we talk about today.
So let's start at the beginning. Our journey has to start with figuring out what we're even trying to do. What does it mean to set a course for your life when you know for a fact that the waters are going to get rough?
Here's the core idea. You can't not aim your life at something. It's impossible. Whether you do it consciously or not, you are always pointed towards some kind of goal. And if that goal is something flimsy, like just being comfortable, or maybe nursing a grudge, or maybe nothing at all, well then life's difficulties are going to shatter you. The real challenge, the game, is to find a purpose, an aim so profound that the suffering becomes more than just bearable, it actually becomes a necessary part of the whole journey.
Okay, so if having an aim is absolutely essential, the next logical question is, what should you aim at? And this brings us to this really central concept of a highest value, or, to use the psychological term from our source material, God. Now, it's really, really important to get this next part. This isn't necessarily a conversation about theology. In this context, God is the psychological principle that you actually live by. It's whatever you put at the very top of your personal pyramid of values. It's the thing that organizes everything else. It's what you actually do, what you sacrifice for, and ultimately, it's what carves out the shape of your character.
And this, right here, this gets to the absolute heart of it. This isn't some optional game you can decide to play or not. You are going to serve something. Period. If you serve your own resentment, you're going to become dangerous. If you serve your own short-term impulsive pleasures, you'll become weak and useless. The stakes couldn't be higher, because picking the wrong thing to serve doesn't just lead to a bad week, it leads to a broken character and ultimately a broken life.
Now here's another layer to this which is fascinating. A thinker like Jonathan Pajot suggests that this highest value of yours isn't just some random idea floating around in your head. It's actually a pattern that reflects a much deeper structure in reality itself. Think of it like this. A flag is a symbol, but it organizes a real country with real people and real borders. In the same way, your highest guiding principle is a symbol that organizes your entire life.
And if we look at it from a theological viewpoint, like Bishop Aaron's here, this whole struggle isn't just in your head. The wrestling he's talking about is a response to something transcendent. It's a call from a reality that is way bigger than you are. It's this deep struggle to align yourself not just with some idea you came up with, but with the good itself.
So you've got an aim, but how in the world do you handle all the suffering that's guaranteed to show up along the way? Well, the key insight here is that not all suffering is the same, not even close.
Thinkers from Jordan Peterson all the way to Viktor Frankl make this really critical distinction. On one hand, you have meaningful sacrifice. That's the pain you choose to take on for a higher good. Think about the exhaustion you feel when you're training for a marathon. That kind of pain builds you up. It makes you stronger. But on the other hand, you have destructive suffering. That feels pointless, unfair, just imposed on you. It's the bitterness of a random tragedy. And that kind of suffering, it isolates you, it eats away at your spirit, and it points you straight towards resentment.
Right. This is where all the big ideas have to get real. It's one thing to talk about these high ideals, but what about right now, this week, when you just feel completely overwhelmed and you're drowning in chaos? What's the very first practical step you can take to get out of that fog? The playbook for getting out of that fog isn't some giant magical transformation overnight. No, it's about small, concrete, deliberate actions. First, eliminate something. Just stop doing that one thing you know is making your life worse. Second, add something. Bring one simple positive routine into your day, even if it's just for 15 minutes. And third, act. Take on one tiny responsibility you've been avoiding. That is how you start to build order, from the ground up, brick by brick.
And look, those little steps aren't just one-time fixes. You should think of them as the foundational bricks. They're what you use to build a much larger, more stable structure for your entire life.
The principle is pretty simple. Order is contagious. You start with what you can literally touch and control right now: your room, your schedule, when you go to sleep. You create routines so you're not wasting mental energy on 1,000 tiny decisions every day. And you focus on being consistent, not on being intense. Small wins build momentum. And really important, remember that order isn't just about clean spaces. It's relational. It's also about having one clear, honest conversation you've been putting off.
This is such a powerful way to reframe this. I think a lot of us try to build discipline by just yelling at ourselves, being our own angry drill sergeant. But that's a recipe for rebellion. It never lasts. A better way to think about it is that discipline is a deal, a meaningful bargain you make with your future self. It's about building trust and respect for yourself, one tiny kept promise at a time.
Okay, so now let's scale this whole thing up, because this internal struggle we've been talking about, it doesn't stay internal. Your personal choices have massive, massive consequences that ripple out from you into the rest of society.
So here's the dark path. Here's how it begins. It starts when your personal suffering sours and curdles into resentment. But that bitterness doesn't just stay an emotion. Oh no, it needs a story. It needs a narrative to justify why it's there. And that story, that narrative, it always simplifies the world in a really dangerous way. It takes all the problems, all the evil, and it locates it outside of you. It projects everything onto an enemy, a person, a group, a system. And once that villain is locked in, something terrible happens. A horrifying transformation. Actions that are clearly objectively cruel can suddenly be rationalized as righteous punishment. Hurting the villain doesn't just feel okay, it starts to feel like justice. And this is the final, terrifying step down that path. As thinkers like Hannah Arendt pointed out, the individual starts to outsource their own moral judgment to the group, to the narrative. That little inner voice that asks, wait, is this right? What am I becoming? It just goes silent. It gets replaced by the angry slogans of the tribe.
But there's an answer to that entire process. There's a profound counter-argument, and it comes from this quote by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. This is the ultimate statement of personal responsibility. It yanks the focus away from finding villains out there in the world, and it forces you to confront the potential for good and for evil that exists inside your own heart.
So when you boil it all down, this is what you're left with. This is the alternative path. Instead of blaming the world, you tell the truth, and you start by telling the truth to yourself. You accept responsibility for your little corner of the universe. You make the voluntary sacrifice that's needed for a better future. And you walk forward, guided by your own conscience, which you've worked to restore.
And that leaves us with one last, very practical question. Because this isn't just some intellectual game. It's a real choice that we all have to make every single day in 100 little ways. The battle between order and chaos, between good and evil, it starts inside you. So, which side are you going to choose to strengthen today?